We cannot endlessly overload our capacity without there being serious consequences. It will have an effect. You have a limit. You cannot carry everything all at once. Hello friend, welcome back to the channel. I'm excited that you are here. This is a short series that's called Back on the Wagon Challenge. This is a Q4 challenge for creatives, people who may have started off the year really excited, had all of these dreams, all of these goals, all of these visions and big plans, and somewhere along the way you fell off the wagon. Somewhere along the way you lost motivation and you're maybe lying on your back looking up into the sky thinking, what on earth even happened? And when we hit this point, it's very tempting to want to kind of give up entirely and just say, I'll start over in the new year. But the truth is, you still have time. There is still time to accomplish something. Maybe not everything that you thought you would, but this is a little bit of a kind kick in the pants for any of you creatives who are like, look, I want to make the last part of this year work. I want it to still have value. I want to do something in this last portion. Now, if you are running into this challenge and it's not the end of the year or anything like that, it's totally fine. This challenge really can work at any point in time, any moment that you feel like you started off well and lost traction, hit a rut, something happened, and you want to get back up and that creative project or that idea is still calling to you, but you're really struggling to get back up again. This is a great challenge for you, and it can work any time of the year, really. Now, if you watched the first video, then you know that I've been using the old video game, The Oregon Trail, kind of as a way to use some illustration points from that game to ground us in some lessons, some tips, and some encouragement for those of us who are starting over again. So today we are going to take a side quest over to a more recent game in history. It's one of my favorite games ever, and that is Skyrim. Now, Skyrim is just one of those games that the first time I played it, my heart just fluttered. It is an open world fantasy game where you get to create your own character and follow over 200 quests, and as you're adventuring, as you're side questing, as you're doing all of these different things, you're leveling up your skills, you're finding treasures, you can build things. There are so many things you can do in this game, and if you haven't played it, just know that it's awesome. I love it. It's amazing. People who hate video games have played this game or watched me play this game, and they have fallen in love with this game. So Skyrim is just, I love it. There is one element in this game that really makes or breaks your gameplay. It's something that you have to keep in mind when you are coming up with a strategy for any number of your quests, and that is carrying capacity. Every item in Skyrim has a weight to it. Now, things like clothing, ingredients, food, they have a lower weight assigned, but things like armor, weapons, or dragon bone, treasures, those things have a higher weight assigned. You, as your character, have a carrying capacity. You have a limit of what you can carry in the game. It would be great if we could just pick up absolutely everything, throw it on our shoulders, and go anywhere we want. If you get to the place where you are at your carrying capacity or above your carrying capacity limit, you are going to get this wonderful message. You are carrying too much to be able to run. Now, technically it's not the end of the world if you cannot run, but if you are at your carrying capacity or above, you can't run, you can't sprint, and there are a lot of aspects of the gameplay that become way more difficult. If you have played Skyrim and you love it as much as I do, then you know how frustrating it can be when you have finally beat that boss in that cave or whatever it is, and there's this wonderful treasure chest full of items that you would like to take home with you, but you don't have enough space to be able to carry it all. In this moment, decisions must be made. When you get to this place in time in the game, you have 3 basic options that you can take in order to resolve this issue. The first one, you can increase your overall carrying capacity. Now, how do you do that? Well, you increase your skill levels, you defeat enemies, you complete quests, and as you do that, you up your skill levels and you up your stamina, and that will add points to your overall carrying capacity. So the first one is to increase your overall carrying capacity, and that happens through questing and leveling up your skills. The second one is to share your burdens with a follower or a companion. In the game, you can be married and have a spouse, and you can also have a companion or somebody who follows you around and goes on these quests with you. You can share your burdens, you can place those with somebody else, and that will make more room for you to pick up more things. That will decrease your carrying capacity underneath that limit. So the second one is to share your burdens with a companion or a spouse. Then finally, which is my least favorite one, is you have to let some things go. There will come a time in the game where if you are at your capacity or past it, you have to start doing some juggling. You have to start looking at what is in your inventory and really start making some hard decisions. What can I let go of? What can I store and hopefully it be here later? What are some things that I just have to drop entirely? Or if you get real crazy like me, like what food can I eat, even though food doesn't have a lot of weight that changes? What can I get rid of right now? What can I consume? What can I use in this moment so that I make more space? Okay, so that final one is to let some things go. Let's go back over those really quick. So in order to resolve your carrying capacity issues in Skyrim, the 3 basic things you can do is increase your overall carrying capacity, share that burden with a companion, or let some things go. The same is true for you in your life as a creative. There are moments where you are going to get right up to your carrying capacity or above that, and you're going to have to make some decisions. You're going to have to resolve that issue, because if you're carrying too much, it is going to disrupt your creative process. It's going to make things more difficult than really needs to be. That's really nice, Kayla, but I'm not a gamer girl, so can we bring this a little bit more IRL, in real life? Let's do that. Because actually, my husband and I came up with, I think, a pretty good definition of what carrying capacity is in real life. Carrying capacity. Carrying capacity is your current amount of mental fortitude and emotional energy available for output. Let me read that again. Your carrying capacity is your current amount of mental fortitude and emotional energy available for output. Whether we like to admit it or not, we all have limits. We cannot endlessly overload our capacity without there being serious consequences. It will have an effect. You have a limit. You cannot carry everything all at once. Oftentimes as creatives, we see the creative process as the only thing taking up capacity in our life, right? But we forget that while we are creatives, we are humans, and there are other things going on in our lives that we have to calculate into that capacity. Here are some other things that you should be considering outside of your creative process that are going to be adding weight to your current capacity. You've got to be thinking about your physical health. How are you feeling physically? What about any current traumatic experiences? What about some unresolved traumatic experiences that you might not have had a chance to process yet? You've got to think about your emotional, your mental, your spiritual, relational health. Where are you at with your motivation? How do you feel about your vocational future? These are all things that you need to consider when calculating your current capacity. Looking at your life holistically will intrinsically improve your creative process on the whole. One thing that's really interesting about carrying capacity in Skyrim is, let's say you're starting off with the base carrying weight capacity, which is 300. Now, if you load yourself up to 299, you will be able to still run. You can fast travel and you won't be encumbered. But as soon as you hit 300, that message is going to say, hey, you can't run, you're encumbered. Why I find this so interesting is because oftentimes we think, well, if this is my limit, if this is where my current capacity is, I'm going to load up right to the limit and I'll still be fine. But playing the game in Skyrim tells us something completely different. Once you hit that limit, you're out, you're done. It's too much. And how often do us as humans, but also as creatives, we continue to load ourselves up to that capacity and think, well, as long as this is my limit, if I can stay at that limit, I will be okay. But the truth is, in order to really be successful in Skyrim, and I think in order to live very holistically and have a healthy creative process, there needs to be space between where your limit is, like where your current capacity really is, and where you're loading it up to. I think we should leave a little room. So why is this even important, Kayla? Here's why I think calculating your current capacity is really, really important. Ultimately, your current capacity is going to determine your pace. It really, really is. And to jump back to the Oregon Trail illustration, if you move too fast through the game, you are going to blow through your resources, and that's not the healthiest strategy. And a lot of people have found themselves back at the beginning, falling off the wagon because they went too fast. And in the same way, I think knowing your current capacity also allows you to, hey, maybe you're going too slow. Maybe you've leveled up your skills and really there is more space for you to push a little harder. I think both things come in tandem. They work in tandem. Going too fast is not healthy. Just like going way too slow out of fear is also not healthy. I don't know how many times in my life I have thought I had a much larger carrying capacity than I really did. I wasn't keeping in mind all of the things that were actually going on in my life. Maybe something was really traumatic and I tried to blow past it. And all of a sudden I start struggling in my creative process. I'm not getting things done. My motivation is lacking and I'm frustrated. And when I really sat down and thought about it, I realized this thing really hurt a lot more than I thought, and I'm trying to push myself past a capacity that I should be a little bit lower. I really need to back off on a few things simply because it's too much, and that really has affected my carrying capacity. Or maybe it's the opposite. Maybe I've really had a huge breakthrough in healing and I'm operating at a lower capacity from a past season. And then when I really look at why am I not really making any progress? Why are things moving so slow? It's because I've actually leveled up my skills. And so I have a larger capacity. And maybe it is time to challenge myself a little bit more. If you start getting to the point where you are struggling, you feel like you're really far behind, you feel like, I just can't keep up, or man, I'm really just lacking in motivation, it might be time to check your current capacity. You might be carrying too much to be able to run. So in the same way that we see in the game, when you hit this point, I want you to consider, is it time to increase your capacity? Like I said, is it time to level up some skills and maybe expand what you are currently doing. Push a little harder, add a little bit more resistance, more of a challenge for yourself. Or is it time to share the burden and say, hey, I need help. I can't do this by myself. I've gotten to the point where I now need a companion to walk with me through this stage of the journey. Or lastly, is it time for you to let some things go? If you're reached your max carrying capacity and it's time to let things go, it doesn't mean that you're letting go of them forever. Maybe they just need to be stored for now and revisited when your capacity is ready to be expanded. Well, friend, I really hope that that was helpful. This has been a life-giving lesson that I have learned the hard way, but now that I've learned it, it's been incredibly helpful for myself as a human, but also as a creative and being whole in my creative process. If you're feeling like, okay, this was a great lesson, Kayla, but I have no idea how to figure out what my current capacity is, that's okay, because I created this little assessment called Calculate Your Current Capacity Assessment. Now, I'm not a mental health professional and I'm not a doctor in any way. This is a short little assessment that I created for myself and some of my friends. Most people have found this helpful just to get a better idea of, oh, maybe I really need to slow down a bit because I didn't realize that I'm carrying a lot more than I thought I was. Or maybe the opposite of saying, hey, I think it might be time to challenge myself a little more, maybe take on some extra side quests. I will leave that down below in the description. It's free, and I hope it's helpful for you. Remember, calculating your current capacity ultimately determines what your pace is. And next video, I'm going to dive deeper into pace. How do you set a healthy and realistic pace? How do you know how fast to go or how slow to go? We are going to talk all about that next time. So for now, grab your CCC assessment down below if you'd like, and I will see you next time. Bye.